All right, so we did Bellarmine chapter 6. So, yes or no question. Christine Jacques. When people give power to the government to rule them, do the people reserve the right to withdraw that power? Okay. When I say Christine Jacques, I'm talking to her, not to you. Unless you want me to start calling you Christine, Aiden. So Christine. Yes, they do. Okay. So if people, hold on. If people give the power Are we done? Having our conversations? Oh, I guess Jimmy's not. Yeah, I have one rule. My one rule is very simple. When I talk, you don't. Yes. Yes. Is that just on the individual or on the public level? That's a good question. So Michael's question is that just on the public level? So if people give the power to the government, they reserve the right to withdraw it. Whoops. Is that just on the public level? What do you guys think?
Yes. Because if I wanted to take my power out, then there really wouldn't be a government. So I could do whatever I wanted.
Yeah, that's a good answer. It's people, not person. Okay, that's an important distinction. Why? Because people get together and people are putting together. This is all on a society-wide scale, isn't it? We're talking about civilizations. We've been talking about societies. Even though God instills in each of us our own individual powers and rights, what we are talking about as far as governments go is us banding together and giving power to a government. Okay? Now, so the question that follows is that, do people have the right to depose a government? This one's a little bit more complicated, a little more nuanced. Aiden, what do you think about that one? That's your answer to the last question.
Yes.
No. Yes?
If it's an unjust government and there have to be a lot of...
So you put an if in there. I like the if. Okay, the if is good. It's a depends. I'm a lawyer. Depends is always the right answer. You can ask me any question. Go ahead and ask me a question. And you can always answer a question with depends. It depends. There's really no answer you can't. And the literal answer is it depends. Okay? Ordinarily, no. Okay? Ordinarily, no. Okay? It is a big thing to depose a government. This is no minor thing. Okay? But the certain cases, under certain circumstances, and the word certain is important there. It's not just meaning as in limited, although that is what it means. It also means certain as in you are certain. The people are certain that certain things have been met, as Michael said. Yes? And which one? If you put yes, you'd get it half right. It should say ordinarily no, sometimes yes. Okay, so you get it half right. It's an important question. It's a little more nuanced than just a yes or a no. Okay. For example, in the 1700s, is it 1600s, the gunpowder plot? Pardon? The gunpowder plot was when a group of men got together and decided that they were going to try to overthrow, they were going to try to get rid of Parliament. They were literally, they got together barrels of gunpowder and were going to, ba-boom, blow it up. They were storing them underneath Parliament. They got caught right before it happened. And the result was actually very bad because The Catholics ended up getting blamed for it. Okay, and the persecution of Catholics increased quite a bit, even though there wasn't any more Catholics involved in it than there were Protestants or anyone else. Okay, so the result of trying to depose a government can be very bad unless you're... think of the result. What would the results have been for our founding fathers? They all knew it was treason. They all knew they would have hung. Washington made no bones about it. He'd have been the first one hung if they had lost the war, okay, as a traitor. So, very dangerous, so you need to really be certain about it. Okay, so what are the legitimate reasons for a change of government? What are the legitimate reasons? Number one. Give me number one. Somebody, give me number one. What's the first thing that needs to be going on in the government? Good. Oppression. Can you give me examples of what oppression means? Peter? Tyranny. Good. What else? Michael?
Things have to have been tried. Like other means, other than rebellion.
Okay, well, that's not oppression, though, right? So, that's number two, though. Other remedial means. Okay. Well, what else over oppression, though? Any other oppressions? It's tyranny. What else? Some other things have to go into oppression. I mean, if the government does one thing that's tyrannical, is that enough? David, what do you think? No, it is not. What must it be? Then, if one isn't enough, what must it be? Is two enough?
More than one.
More than one. Well, probably that's not exactly right either. I would say that two things probably aren't enough either. What do you kind of need? Many things. Okay, we'll use the word continual. Okay? Continual. Okay? And what else about the oppression? What else about the oppression? There's a word that they use. Peter?
It has to be unjust.
Unjust, or is there another word other than unjust? Intolerable is the word that. Intolerable. It needs to be intolerable. Okay, so in other words, just because they're doing something tyrannical, maybe they are taxing us a lot, taxing the people a lot. Maybe unjustly, maybe because they just want to waste money on, I don't know, building more, whatever they want to build, something stupid, maybe more racetracks, okay? And they're taxing and taxing and taxing the people, okay? So it's continual, it's probably tyrannical because it's not really the role of government to be building racetracks and taxing the people. But the tax needs to be intolerable as well, okay? Now, what does that mean exactly? Well, our forefathers felt that a 3 cents tax on the stamps was intolerable, not because the tax was so high, but because they were not represented, right? If they had been represented, they would not have been able to say that that was intolerable, all right? So there could be something that's probably you could consider tyrannical, and it could be wasteful, and it could be continual, but it also has to be intolerable. Okay, intolerable. And if the founding fathers have been hit with that 3 cents tax, if they had representation over in Parliament, they probably would have been stuck with it. They couldn't have said that it was intolerable. So intolerable, all right? Other remedial means have to have failed. What else? Number 3. Chrissy? Good. Why? Jacob, why would you want to have a reasonable probability of success? Dominic?
So you can have a better government to put up?
Well, it doesn't necessarily. Just because you're going to succeed doesn't mean you'll have a better government to put up. Peter?
Consequences?
Ah, yeah, consequences. Like what? What consequences, Pat?
Like the gunpowder plot.
Yeah, the gunpowder plot, exactly. I already gave you an example. If you don't succeed, it's probably going to be pretty dire consequences. Like you're going to be hung, or people are going to be blamed even if they're not. I mean, Nero burned Rome and then decided to blame the Christians. The government will find a way to blame a group it doesn't like, okay, for something that fails like this. So you have to have a reasonable probability of success. Otherwise, don't do it. Okay, and then what's the fourth? What's the fourth? David? Has to be just. Well, that's not enough. It's not all I'm looking for. Dominic?
It has to be approved by the majority.
Yes. Approved by majority. But there's a second prong to this one, too. Approved by majority. And what's the second part to it? Jimmy?
And by the best men.
Good. And best men of the land. That's an interesting caveat. They're actually saying that the majority may want to do it. But if the best men in the land aren't there to lead it, to throw their hat in it, and they say that it's not right, you may not want to do it, because sometimes majorities and even minorities, and I mean like the number of people, not minorities as an ethnic, the minorities can, or the majorities can be acting foolishly, and sometimes smaller groups of people or individuals can step in and stop a rash act. Now, does it have to be a majority either? Is that even the most important thing? Does it have to be a majority? What do you think, Lucy? No, that's correct. A minority can act if it's sufficiently strong in order to be able to save the land. So in other words, 10 people probably wouldn't be enough, but you don't necessarily have to have like 51% of the people decide that they're going to act. You just have to have enough that it can be sufficiently strong that it will have success. Okay? With these conditions present, okay, force may be used. All right? Those conditions are present? No. All right. Chapter 7. What is civil authority? What is civil authority? Well, just to throw an idea out there. Come on, what is civil authority? Yes?
The government.
The government. Okay, it's not just the government, though. It's a relationship. It's the proper relationship between the government and the people. Okay? Individual citizens have the right and duty, okay, to be a part of the government in which they live in, the state they live in, the country they live in. Okay? Now here's a question for you that wasn't necessarily on the sheet. What is liberty? What is liberty? Michael?
The freedom of people to do what's good for them.
Close. You got the first part right. So freedom. What is it freedom from, Pat?
So it's like to have your right to do everything, like private property stuff.
Okay, good. It's freedom from, let's say, okay, so freedom being the first word. Freedom from undue restraint, but not, so it is this, is not, okay, is not freedom from proper, rightful legal control, though, okay? So I like the way, the fact that you guys were saying that you're using the word rightful, and you were talking about it from the way the people were acting, though. But liberty is freedom from the government. So it's freedom from undue restraint. All right? But not from rightful legal control. The whole concept is that there's going to be certain amounts of rightful legal control that the government is being entrusted with from the people. Okay? So, let's talk about people then. So if we've got this relationship between the government, and we know what liberty is, okay, let's talk about the people. Are all people created equally? Michael?
In the fact that they're human beings, but not in like intellectualism and stuff.
Just say it depends.
And
Depends. You're right. Okay, you actually clarified that very nicely. Okay, so in what way are they equal? Let's talk about what the word equal means. This word is important. This word gets bandied about like crazy today, right? As if civil rights and equal rights and all that kind of stuff is the most important thing in the world, right? Everybody being treated the same way. But is everyone really equal? Okay, in what ways are we all equal? We are all equal in what ways? Yes. In the eyes of God. Okay. It's an interesting question. Our souls are all equally valuable to God, but I would not say that we're all equal in God's eyes. I mean, God didn't even create the angels equally, right? You know what I mean? Can you tell the difference there? Not that God loves any of us less than anyone else. It's not that God loves any of the angels less than anybody else. But that doesn't mean that God created us all equally. There's a difference there, right? His love for us may be equal, but that doesn't make us all equal. So what ways are we equal? Yes? In species, yes, very good. Our species and what else? One other thing. Yes? Essence. Well, that's a big word. I'm gonna include that in the word species. Okay? I think essence and species are kind of the same thing. Yes? Rights. Let's call that, I like that word, but I'm going to expand it actually. Opportunities. We're all equal in our opportunities. We're all given the same opportunities. That comes from the fact that we all have those rights that she's talking about. Okay? We are equal in species and opportunities. What ways are we not equal? That's right. Which is exactly to Pat's point. If we were all equal in God's eyes, just blankly, then we would be equal in the amount of grace as well. God likes variety. He does. I mean, for crying out loud, do any of the plants have souls? Do any of the flowers have souls? And yet, how many varieties of flowers, colors, and shapes and sizes are there? The same thing with people and angels. Like I said, it doesn't mean that God loves any of us any less. He just likes us to be different. He does. He likes to give us all different ideas and thoughts and abilities. And you see what we can do with it. Sometimes people with less abilities do a lot more with it than people with a lot of abilities. That's impressive when that happens. I tell you what, those are the people who become great saints. If they're using their abilities in the right way, of course. All right? But God also says He expects, He's given us story after story, that to whom much is given, much is expected. Why were the angels cast into hell the moment that they decided that they weren't going to follow God? Rose?
Because they had all their knowledge.
Yeah, they were given such superior intellects that they knew. There was no doubt in their minds. They weren't clouded by the world and bodies and anything else. They knew exactly what they were doing. And so the moment they made that choice to turn their backs on God, they were immediately punished for that because they were given so much. Okay, they had that ability already. They got the parable of the talents, right? Interesting that the word talents is even used. And God gave, as obviously it's the parable, the master gave each of his servants a different amount of talents. He gave one servant 5, one servant 2, and one servant 1. And when he came back, the one servant, he said, "What did you do with the talents?" "It's money." Okay. The one servant said, "I took your 5 talents and I turned it into 10. And he said, "No, excellent. I expected, that of you, and you did a great job." And the one he gave 2 to, he said, "Well, I took your 2 and I turned it into 4. And he said, "Excellent job. You are blessed. Come into my household." And the one he'd given 1 to said, "Well, I buried it in the yard and I saved it. Here you go. Here's your 1 back." And he said, "You unfaithful servant. I didn't expect to come back and for you to give me 10. But I expect you to do what you were supposed to with the 1 at least." Right? So that's the opposite end of the spectrum. Even if you were given less, you're still expected. But the Bible literally says in it, "To much whom is given, much is expected." Okay? In a parable, though, we're also told, it doesn't matter what you're given, God expects you to use it to the best of your abilities. Okay? We're not equal in wisdom and grace. We're just not. Can you imagine if we all were? There would be a problem. You know what the problem would be? We'd all want to be president of the United States, the dictator, the leaders. None of us would want to do anything else. We'd all want to do the same things. We'd all be exactly the same. Nothing would ever get done. We all have to have different abilities and likes and dislikes. That's fine. Okay? Don't let modern society try to tell you that we're all equal and we all should get trophies. That's what that's all about. It's trying to pretend like we are a herd of animals. That's what liberalism wants. The whole, everyone deserves a trophy. I mean, the people who, it's astonishing if you talk to the people, my father is the head of human resources at his work, especially the young people who come in, who come and they can't believe that they show up to work every day and yet they don't get promoted and they don't get bonuses and they don't get paid a lot. It's like it's this entitlement attitude. Just because you're there, you should get it. Well, why? Why do they have that attitude? Well, because in school, everyone was given good grades no matter what. In sports, everyone was given a trophy. In computer club, everyone was given a certificate. It's just expected that as long as you're there, as long as you're part of the computer club, as long as you're part of the sports, as long as you're part of the team, you're going to be rewarded for that. That's not life. It's not the way it works. Okay? It doesn't matter what talent you're given. God expects you to work and to use it. All right? So what's the difference between servile subjection and political subjection? So now we're talking about subjection here. And we all subject ourselves. Okay, we can either do that in a servile manner. Okay, what is servile manner? What does that mean? Stephen, what is servile subjection? Yeah, labor. You work for someone else. Okay? Labor. You work for someone else. Political. Yes. You work for yourself, right. Okay. The higher your rank is, the greater the authority that you have, the more you need to be a servant. If you're not a good leader, okay, and you're not doing what God wants you to do. That's why St. Gregory the Great talked about the Pope being the servant of the servants of God. He was entrusted with the most earthly power in the church could give. And he realized that meant that he had to be the most servile of anyone on earth. All right? And that's very important. What is the duty of the political head of the people? Well, it's just what I just said. Not to seek their own gain, but to seek the gain of the people. Okay? And then finally, this is one maybe some people have some trouble with. What is patriotism? What is patriotism? Yes? Love for your country. I like that. Let's define love, though. Let's put the word loyalty there. Okay, if you love someone, what else? What else would you do? What else do you do if you love someone or something? What else do you do? Serve it. Okay, what else? Yes? Protect it. I'll use that word like that. Probably goes with loyalty a bit. Protect it. What else? Michael? Work to make it better. Let's put the word obey there for that. I like that. Obedience. Okay? Okay. So you have loyalty, protection, obedience to the, going back to the very beginning, the civil authority. Notice, that's why we define civil authority as a relationship between the government and the people, because patriotism means that you have loyalty, obedience, respect. You want to protect, make better the civil authority. Okay? That's how that works. It is something that works together, not something that just totally separate ideas or things. All right? So that covers what I needed to in chapters 6 and 7 from the Political Philosophy of St. Robert Bellarmine. Tomorrow we'll hit chapter 8.